Well, I guess it's just a matter of time that we've only got about 4 more days to go until this entire 2022 year is about to conclude. And first off, I really love this intro, by the way, because it kind of reminds me of one of those Sega channels whenever you just manage to download certain games on certain services. It does remind me of that. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I am the one and only Maxi here, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for more of the Forms of the Maxi Toys videos here. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, presumably, the final Let's Play of 2022 before we move on to 2023. So here we are, on to the forms of another fan-made Sonic game, but this time around though, is the most recent Sonic fan-made game, and this one appears to be by the forms of, as you can see on screen, we are playing Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble 16-bit. Now the reason why I say 16-bit, this is because this is a remake of the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, except rather than being on the Sega Game Gear this whole time, so instead it's now going to be on the 16-bit visuals. So as a result though, I'm very looking forward to able to checking out this game for you guys, because originally we won't be able to actually do this Let's Play, but then I found out that I decided able to check this out by myself, and all in all, I was very impressed with this game. Although I'll talk more details about this as soon as we're able to get the game started. Now originally I was expecting to able to go for the game as in full screen mode, but as you can see on screen, my settings have been slightly altered slightly. So in this case though, the screen size will be 3 times. And then also we actually have ourselves V-Sync, which I'm not exactly sure what that's represented with. And as well as the forms of the special stage, which actually sets it into the forms of not only 20 FPS, but also 60 FPS, which just kind of reminds me of the forms of Sonic CD special stages between the original version alongside with the remastered version as well. And also there's the forms of the weather effects turned on, as well as the aspect ratio. You can either set this between 4:3 or 16 or 9. Well, 16:9 or 4.3. So either way though, as well as the forms of some audio, alongside with the controls, and even the language selection, and especially noticeable where you can able to actually change Fang the Sniper into a different name, as in Knack the Weasel, because as far as I'm aware, Knack the Weasel was actually the English version of that name, and then Fang the Sniper was actually the Japanese name, I'm pretty sure, for the sake of time. So anyways, without further ado, let's get this thing to it, onto the story mode, because that will be the main focus of this Let's Play, because, well, you know what I mean when it comes to certain Sonic Let's Plays throughout the majority of the channel, then obviously I'm going to be focusing on story mode as it is. And also, very similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, alongside with Sonic Mania as well, we actually have ourselves a file selection screen, as you can see. So in this case though, at the moment, we can only play through as Sonic and Tails, with their Chaos Emerald icon showing up on the forms of the file selection. So let's get this thing to it. Shortly after the DevEx destruction, the Master Emerald is returned to Angel Island. Because yes, this particular game's story takes place immediately after the events of when Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles was concluded, so it's nice to be able to see the actual opening cutscene of the game, so just in case if you about to be able to see what's going to be happening before the events of you know, the actual Triple Trouble game exists. So even then though, we somehow managed able to take a flight on the actual tornado, and Knuckles was standing there with the Master Emeralds just like before. But in addition to that though, oh my god, it looks like it's gonna get a bit stormy, doesn't it? Although what's nice about this is the fact that we actually ended up on the actual prologue stage. So in this case though, I think to be more specifically for this particular intro stage right here, I think it's more accurately Zone 0, I'm pretty sure for this point, because obviously there's not much right to home about, no enemies to be found. As well as from that though, I think the game actually started able to introduce into ourselves some quite a number of things compared to the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, which I'll point it out whenever we get into it eventually. So seems like it's all raining all of a sudden, and yeah, because the weather conditions are pretty terrible at this rate, and oh my god, So it looks like that the Defect robot has been revived from the likes of the forms of how it does it from, well, Sonic 3 and Knuckles within exactly the same sprite, although we did somehow manage to turn into Super Sonic from the very get-go, which it kind of reminds me of the forms of the opening cinematic scene of Sonic Unleashed, except the fact that with no Dark Gaia manual scripts or no Hedgehog transformation after all, so here's Dr. Robotnik, and oh god, we got captured and we lost all of the Chaos Emeralds, which means we can't turn into Super Sonic from now on. So I wonder where all the Chaos Emeralds gone into. I'm guessing they might have teleported from someplace elsewhere. And of course, Dr. Eggman, just like he forms of how it does it on the 8-bit version, then he got the final Chaos Emeralds, which always has to be the yellow version, apparently. So, and of course, we see Fang the Sniper right here, laughing as always, and this is what the story begins in Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. Meaning that we have, you know, triple the trouble, which meaning about the fact that we have to worry about not only in terms of Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, to be more specific, as well as Fang the Sniper, and what could possibly be the third one, maybe? Well, if you're falling for the original version of the game, then you do realize about the fact that we have to deal with Knuckles again, I'm pretty sure. But, I'm not gonna spoil anything majorly just yet, though, just because, well, we'll point it out whenever we get into it. So, yeah, here's the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble 16-bit remake, and I'm gonna say, it does play very similar to the forms of how it does it on the actual Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Like, for one thing, the movement speed is actually very similar to the forms of the actual Mega Drive / Genesis days, which I do like. And on top of all that stuff there, as you can see on screen, that we actually stumbled across some familiar elemental shields ever since in the past Sonic games. Well, to be more specifically, within both Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, alongside with the other one too, that it usually involves around in, well, let's just say like a golden shield or something like that. But either way though, we'll discuss more details about this in a second, because as you can see on screen, we're actually going to be taking control of not only Sonic the Hedgehog, but also Tails as well. And by doing so is the fact that, as you notice, they actually got themselves an indicated switching button, which this allows you to able to switch between these two characters on the fly. You know, sort of similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Heroes, but in a 2D perspective. And on top of all that stuff though, it also kind of reminds me of the forms of in one of those games made by fans called Sonic Classic Heroes, where basically rather than just able to take control of two characters, so instead it's actually 3 characters into one team. Although I would have liked to able to do that Let's Play for you guys, but unfortunately though, I have some complicated issues to able to actually access those specific ROM hack games from the likes of the Mega Drive / Genesis era of Sonic games, because as far as I'm aware though, it does require a special program into it though, but either way though, it knows what it is, I guess, so, but I digress. So yeah, because as you probably already know, that we're actually almost getting pretty close to the point where we've almost at the end of 2022, because today's day is of course the 28th of December today, in this case in 2022 today. Not much else is going on, I'm afraid, apart from the fact that, well, as you probably already know, since when I believe Sonic already did manage to tackle through Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Mix from the likes of in Sega Mega CD / Sega Mega Drive versions, although usually we played the Mega CD version just because, you know what I mean, with all that faster loading times and stuff like that, or maybe, I don't know, because it has been a very long while since we actually known about this kind of stuff, so as always, you're still able to collect some rings here and there, and in addition to that though, all these badniks throughout the majority of the game are actually like very similar enemies as the forms of how it does it on the, well, the 8-bit version, except, well, they are obviously now converted into 16-bit, which I will say, from the fan-made game like this, is actually very impressive, although talk more details on that in a second, because here we have a different special stage, which, differently from the likes of how it does it on the 8-bit version of Sonic Triple Trouble, is the fact that, as you can tell, in order to able to get to the special stages, much like the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, alongside with Sonic Mania, you need to find those giant special stage rings, and then if you do find one of them, you would able to actually access the special stages all by itself. And what makes this very unique, in comparison to the forms of how it does it on the 8-bit counterpart of this, is that rather than just go through 2 series of those different kinds of special stages, like that one time you have to do a platforming, and on top of all that stuff though, you have to deal with another one that you have to take a ride on a tornado and collect some rings in the process. In here though, it's like a combination of the forms of, let's just say, it's almost like a race, but ultimately speaking though, as you can see on screen, on the top left corner, our rings are started to depleting, which means you need to able to collect certain amount of rings in order able to keep yourself alive in those special stages. And if you somehow win the race, such as this first one right here, then we do need to beat Fang the Sniper, by the way, or Knack the Weasel, depending on which specific region you want to call him, and basically you get yourselves the Chaos Emerald just like always. And every once in a while though, in Act 1, as you can see on, the first zone we're going to be hit into, which is of course Great Tropic Zone, the most familiar zone in the original version of the game, except now it's on 16-bit. And on top of all that stuff though, similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Mania, alongside with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, since this is on Act 1 by the way, that we still ended up onto right now, every once in a while we will come across into mini-boss fights, such as for instance, that we actually did beat the second boss, because the first boss we already come across into was actually by the forms of, if I recall correctly, on Zone 0, the boss was actually named as Giant Egg Robo, which apparently I made that mistake when it comes to that incorrect name. So either way though, thankfully I did manage to do a massive research upon what those bosses' names by the way, so yeah, keep that in mind. So here we go on to Act 2 now, where basically Fang the Sniper just somehow knocked us down. So in this case though, we had now ended up in the underground portion of the zone. So either way though, we can hopefully trying to guarantee able to get out of there somehow. So, anywho, so yeah, much like the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Mix, for the sake of the forms of, getting all the Chaos Emeralds, for this playthrough, I will able to actually expect to get every single Chaos Emerald in the game, just in case about the fact that, well, here's the catch about the forms of obtaining those Chaos Emeralds, as far as I'm aware. Similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Chaos, alongside with Sonic Triple Trouble on Game Gear, or Master System for Sonic Chaos case, exponentially speaking, also, alongside with the forms of Sonic Pocket Adventure for Neo Geo Pocket Color, you will definitely get yourselves roughly about 6 Chaos Emeralds throughout the majority of the playthrough, while you do get the 7th one until at the very end of the game, similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Pocket Adventure, except, well, it seems very obvious that you do get it automatically instead of you tend to go for it or ignore it, depending on the forms of some stimulations. So, yeah, that's basically how this goes, basically. So, of course, similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the fact that, alongside with Sonic Mania as well, including Sonic 3D Flicky's Island for the Mega Drive and Genesis, I'm sure that there was also the Saturn version as well, that depending on what acts you're going to be hit into, they obviously do have their different music. So, that's actually pretty swell, especially noticeable because, well, we're gonna say, I really love the 16-bit rendition of certain music as far as I can usually tell for this point, because it's almost sounds like Genesis vibe. So even then though, at least I'm very glad that this particular fan-made remake is actually existent, because, well, obviously, because of not only certain controls are a little bit more better than the forms of how it does it on the original counterpart in my opinion, but also just how fun it was. So, and of course, just like in any other Sonic games, that there are some shields that you can able to find throughout the majority of the game. Like we already noticed about the fact that we actually stumbled across the one new shield that is actually included in this, and that's what have to be by the forms of the gold shield, which it kind of feels a bit similar to the forms of how it does it on the homing shield from the likes of in Sonic 3D Flicky's Island. That basically, well, it only happens on Sonic only, by the way, according to the actual the instruction booklet. Well, mind you, it's completely electronic manual that you will able to come across into if you download the game. And basically what this does is that this allows you to give you a blast attack, which if you jump in midair, and then you can able to actually home in onto enemies. So it's basically like a precursor to Sonic Adventure's homing attack, alongside with Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2 homing attacks, despite the fact that that move basically makes no sense on Sonic 4 Episodes 1 and 2, just because of how the fact that it actually seems kind of unnecessary to able to include that moveset, so but I digress. So, Because, yeah, let's talk about the special stages quickly. Is the fact that, of course, you do need to dodge those bombs, because otherwise, if you dare touch the bombs, then basically you lose rings. However, if your rings count goes to 0, you'll be out of the race. Or, if you fell off the actual stage, you also lose. Or, if you let Fang the Sniper or Nag the Weasel get to the Chaos Symbols before you do, you also lose. So there are 3 multiple ways you can able to actually lose this special stage if you're not careful. But luckily, there are some items that actually helps you out, such as, for instance, there are some ring items that you can able to add up your more rings, so just in case it doesn't go completely depleted. And on top of that, there's also the Lightning Bolt icon item, which this allows you to able to stun Fang the Sniper's progressioning for this entire race, which it certainly helps, especially noticeable because, well, if you grab so many items such as like that, then basically it makes the entire experience a little bit more interesting, as well as, well, easier to manage. So, oh yeah, there are a few times though that you will come across into those tornado segments, which all it does is basically you have to dodge bombs and collect rings in the process. And be careful of those specific objects, like those bumpers will attempt to knock you back. And every once in a while there are some spring pads you can able to jump into, and there's also those little fan panels that you can also just manage to interact with it. So, there we go, second Chaos Symbol obtained, and only 4 more to go, plus the final one, which that will happen during... Well, obviously you go for exactly the same zones as the forms of how it does it on the Game Gear counterpart, although the noticeable difference is this time around though in this remake is the fact that not only do we see that familiar sparkle effect on the specific checkpoints, which basically function the same way as the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, alongside with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, where in Sonic 2 you weren't able to actually access the special stages, of course, and then in Sonic 3 and Knuckles case, that you were able to actually access into one of 3 of those bonus games, like basically, depending on what colors they have, like the normal white sparkly effect on the actual checkpoint, which functions as like a Sonic 3 bonus stage, like a gumball machine. And if it's yellow, it means you're able to actually experience the, well, as far as I'm aware, the actual gumball slot machine. And the red one will actually gives you the ability to able to use those gravity ball in order to able to make your way upwards. So, I think that's as far as I can try to describe it, so even then that might be seems the case. So, here we go, on to this next boss fight right here, which appears to be Tart Turtle, which apparently that's what it's named, by the way, with this boss. And basically it functions the same way as the forms of how it does in the original version. Like, you're not able to still need able to turn into, like, a ball in midair. Like, if you manage to able to get launched into a spring or something, basically I highly recommend you're able to press the jump button as well, so just in case you occur into a ball into the actual midair. That way you can able to deal the amount of damage to this boss, and the more you do it, then you should be pretty deal with it no problem. It's actually kind of easy than the likes of how it does it on the 8-bit counterpart in my opinion, just because thank god no screen crunch, so that's a huge plus. So yeah, because overall, I'm actually very looking forward to see how the some of these new features they added in. Because the reason why I say new features is because since this is a remake, of course, this means they'll obviously not only brought back the actual familiar zones from the likes of the 8-bit counterparts of this particular game, but also new zones included. Like, we've already come across into one new zone, which is of course the intro zone called Zone 0. So yeah, that basically explains that. So there we go, that pretty much wraps it up for Great Tropic Zone. Sorry for a little bit of attentions right there. Great Tropic Zone, that's what I meant to say. And yeah, pretty easy zone, especially noticeable if you know the actual main mechanics of the game. And speaking of which, we stumbled across Knuckles, which, wait a second, since that he's already on Angel Island right now, I mean, why is he here? Well, we'll find more details about that until if we get to one of those extra playthroughs as far as I'm usually concerned with, but we'll just see what happens there. So here we go, on to Sunset Park. So, but this time around though, in gorgeous 16-bit visuals, so... And I don't know about you, but maybe we can probably able to actually try our best if we're able to actually obtain every single Chaos Symbols in this playthrough, because if so, then obviously, much like in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, then it should be a bit of accomplishment, despite the fact that, as you probably can tell from the actual gameplay footage itself, There were a few times though my game occasionally lagged a little bit, which I know it seems a little bit too slower than it needs to be, but I think it was okay, I guess. I mean, like I said, it's just the informs of how the new setup is actually going to be played out to be. So, I will try to fix that problem until whenever we get to tomorrow's video, I'm pretty sure. So, either way, though, there's not much else I can explain. So, and of course, if you do manage to able to switch between Sonic and Tails, I think Tails is easily the most recommendable character to play as. Because of, you know, discover some secrets, you know, with all these items, in addition to special stage rings itself. So yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for. So either way though, yeah, that's not much else to explain about this. So I digress. And there's also the forms of other 3 shields that you're able to actually recognize from the likes of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and those are, well, to be more specifically, the Fire Shield, which once again allows you to able to pull off a Fire Dash, only if you use Sonic after all. And there's also the Lightning Shield, which you can able to actually use the double jump for, and as well as the Water Shield, which allows you to able to perform a little bit of a bounce, or bounce like a ball, or anything else like that. So, and of course, if we get into the one of those underwater segments coming up, that's basically, if you do manage to equip the Bubble Shield, then obviously you're able to survive in underwater, assuming if you don't get hit. So, yeah, that's basically how this goes, basically. I mean, some of those shields are pretty much nothing new, apart from the fact that with the forms of how the fact that, well, I'm just very glad that the elemental shields is now a thing in the forms of this remake, because I think, so as far as I'm aware, the only shield you do able to come across into, I think so anyway, despite it's been a very long time since I actually last played the original version of Sonic Triple Trouble on the Game Gear, because thanks to the forms of that compilation that you do come across into, either on the Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, or, you know, Sonic Gems Collection. So, yeah, that basically summarized as such. So, oh god, he's almost got caught up. Hold on, let me just go ahead and focus here, so just in case I need to stun him, just like that. Oh, of course, occasionally he will drop some rings, so that'll be pretty useful if you manage to accomplish that. So there we go. 3 Chaos Emeralds we've got so far, and only 3 more to go for its collective emeralds, whilst, you know, we'll get the 7th one until at the very end of the game. So, very curious to see how that's going to be represented with, which again, we're probably not going to get into more details about that until later. So, yeah, because as far as I'm aware, the structure plays out pretty much exactly like the original 8-bit version, except, you know, with all that smooth, you know, frame rates, despite my capture footage is a bit laggy. But apart from those side of things though, I will say, the game actually runs very well onto my laptop anyway though, despite there's some bit of lag going on. So even then, I do apologize with the forms of that particular frame rate issues here and there, so I must admit that I do apologize for that. Oh, and something's worth mentioning though, when it comes to the forms of the actual panels that you come across into for certain signposts at the very end of, specifically in Act 1 variations of certain levels, that basically you're able to once again get specific rewards based off from bonus panels you come across. Like, I believe Eggman will just give you nothing, and if you get a flicky, then nothing happened here, just like the forms of how it does in the original version of the game. And on top of that, if you hit the rings panel, you get yourselves 10 rings. And then if you hit Sonic, then I think you get about 10,000 points. And if you hit Tails, I believe you also get 10,000 points as well. And if you get a Knuckles though, you get yourselves the extra life. So yeah, that seems interesting. However, if you do get the Chaos Emerald icon into the forms of that gold signpost, you're able to actually start the next act with 50 rings. You know, just like the forms of how it does in the original version. So yeah, it seems all nice and dandy and everything. And thankfully, unlike the original version of Sonic Triple Trouble, that you don't need to worry about keep your rings alive until you're able to actually stumble across, you know what the forms have been a special stage requirement in the original version of Sonic Triple Trouble? That's basically in the original version that you do need to able to keep your rings alive. Like, you got to keep up with your 50 rings count, and on top of that, you need to find the Chaos Emerald monitors in order to able to actually activate the special stages from the get-go, and that way the sparkle will appear. If not though, then obviously the special stage does not affect. So because of this though, yeah, I'm very glad that this is improvement change, because otherwise though, it kind of feels a bit tedious sometimes, in the original version sometimes. That's because you remember how the fact that every time you do manage to able to get hit by certain spikes or enemies a lot in the original version, then what happens was you will occasionally lose quite a few rings. Well, nowhere near all of them, unlike the forms of how it does it on Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and especially Sonic Chaos most likely for the likes of the Game Gear / Master System, so I can assure you for that. And yeah, I think everything else will be pretty much accounted for as far as I can usually try to describe about the differences between special stages alike. Speaking of a special stage, here's another one right here. So, eventually though, about the fact that until the later stages though, it will start to get a bit difficult though. So, to be expected with most later special stages and beyond will consider if we're able to be up for the challenge. So, but I digress. And something worth mentioning though is the fact that, relatively speaking, unlike the forms of how it does it on the 8-bit version of this Sonic Triple Trouble, that you remember how the fact that I mentioned this before, they do come across into two variations of those special stages, depending on you know, the odd number special stages and the even number special stages as far as I'm aware. Like for example, on special stage 1, 3, and 5, you always have to be forced to deal with the forms of a lot of emphasis on tough platforming and occasional boss fights every once in a while. But in the even-numbered Chaos Emeralds within Special Stage 2 and 4, that you have to able to take a ride on that specific tornado, where basically you have to collect, I would say, roughly 80 rings, until you're able to actually participate in a boss fight against with Fang the Sniper. So, yeah, that might be summarized as such, despite the forms of that hit detection, you know, problems as far as, you know, obtaining rings goes, because usually, relatively speaking though, it's always kind of feels a bit too finicky on my part. And also, one thing I should probably mention is the fact that the special stage theme of this particular remake, as far as I'm usually recall, is actually based off from the remake's music from the likes of the second special stage variation of Triple Trouble, which is a nice touch, because as a result though, that you're able to explore a vast majority of worlds or something. Well, it's hard to explain really, because it's been about, you know, a very long time since I actually last played Sonic Triple Trouble within the 8-bit version, because obviously I'm usually busy playing through other Sonic titles recently, such as Sonic Origins, which I somehow managed to complete it on not only on the PlayStation 4, but also Xbox One versions as well, and recently I'm started able to be playing Sonic Frontiers, which, you know, still enjoyed it, despite there are some, problems with it, but I'm not gonna get into the actual massive spoiler territory, because, again, I'm probably not gonna able to spoil spoilers for you guys out there, especially because, well, you know what I mean, we'll pretty much have to save that conversation until whenever we decide to do that Let's Play, alongside with, maybe I can probably do, Sonic Origins next year, alongside with Sonic Frontiers also in next year as well. So, time will tell. Time will definitely tell. So, anyway, so I get the strong sense of feeling. I think there might be another special stage ring somewhere in this particular alcove, as far as I definitely see it right over there. So, yeah, exponentially we'll get ourselves the 5th Chaos Emerald. Exponentially too, so, but yeah, I think that's everything else I can usually try to think of. Oh, and another thing too, that in terms of Sonic's movesets, it's basically like a combination of the forms of the original 8-bit version of Sonic Triple Trouble, alongside with the forms of Sonic Mania at the same time. Because, as far as I'm aware, in addition to able to actually getting ourselves the usual spin dash, and alongside with the forms of the super peel out from Sonic CD and stuff like that, I fell off. Oh, that's not good. Oh, and by the way, you can able to have an option to able to retry the special stages this time around though, which is quite cool. Although, the only drawback with this is though, it actually costs lives. So, if you think you're about to be able to just keep on retrying the special stages again, over and over and over again, well, chances are though, you're probably gonna waste lives very fast, especially noticeable if you not be prepared for it, and especially noticeable that if you keep wasting all of your lives, and then exponentially when it reaches to about 1 left, then obviously you will get an instant game over for doing so. Although I don't know if this particular remake does have an infinite continue system, although I'm not exactly sure, because, again, it's been a very long while since I actually known about this, ever since, and I would say, the last time I actually seen this particular game in action, it was back in, sometime in summer, although I may be wrong, but either way, though, that might be summed up as such, I guess, so... Oh, and also, eventually, that certain, you know, special stages all by itself might be felt a bit kind of lengthy at points, but it doesn't really matter, because either way, though, I just need to focus, and then just trying to dodge as many of those hazards, like bombs, as well as bumpers, essentially, so that way, we're able to reach ourselves into the 5th Chaos Emerald once we're able to flew over there, and there we go. And there we go, we got the Grey Chaos Emerald, so we only got one more collective Chaos Emerald left, so maybe potentially until Act 2, that we can definitely able to actually get it from there, assuming if we looked hard enough for the certain locations, so... And just like the forms of how it does it on Sonic 3 and Knuckles, alongside with Sonic Mania, that certain special stage rings are actually, I'm not gonna lie, pretty well hidden for certain areas alike. But we'll try our best if we're able to actually find certain special stage rings, I can assure you for this point, so in addition to able to brought back the Super Peel Out from Sonic CD, alongside with Sonic Chaos and the original version of Sonic Triple Trouble, but there was also the forms of a Drop Dash from Sonic Mania, which as a result, this only applies onto Sonic, by the way, because obviously Tails can able to once again fly. And in addition to that, though, is the fact that you can actually able to actually switch over to Sonic a little bit. So just in case you can able to actually get grabbed by Tails and stuff like that. And why do I keep messing up with those bonus stages as far as I already noticed from the start? But either way, though, let's not get ahead of ourselves at this point, because here we have the next boss fight, which apparently is... Oh my god, it's Knuckles! How can I even trust you? Oh dear, looks like he's going into a betrayal thing again, so... But actually, it turns out that I'm actually going to call him, let's just say, Fake Knuckles. Because the reason why I say Fake Knuckles is because, well, again, I'm probably not going to get into more details onto it right now, because exponentially, unlike the Game Gear version of Sonic Triple Trouble, that you only have to fight against with Knuckles once, but that was on the forms of Tidal Plant Zone. But in here, though, I get the strong sense of feeling we might fight him multiple times, well, assuming about the fact that, this is all completely new to me, though, by the way. So as a result, though, there might be a few times when I will make several mistakes if I'm not very curiously careful enough, so... And also I just found out about the fact the matter is, though, he does have more attacks than he forms of how it does it as a simple glide, and occasional spin dash as well. So all he does is he just does the actual, the dash attack and stuff like that, which is always convenient, so... Anyway, so that pretty much takes care of Act 1 of Sunset Park, so nicely done. Now we move on to Act 2, that we hopefully we're able to actually get ourselves the 6th and the last collective Chaos Emerald, and oh god, it's Fang the Sniper! And we take a ride on this particular minecart coaster thing, so... And it just like the forms of how it does in the original version, that we start the actual act up, just like that. So, and of course, if you manage able to interact with the forms of those green little fans, basically though, that you will able to hover in midair for a bit, so... Just like the forms of how it does in the original version, that's for sure, so... Anyway though, so yeah, because as far as I'm aware, yeah, as I mentioned this before, Tails can once again fly, but if he flies for too long, then basically he will get tired, so, you know, just like in other games, basically, so as a result, there's not much else to explain, so... Oh, exponentially, I think anyway, is the fact that, one thing I totally forgot to mention about, in regards to the forms of what's going to be coming up in Journey Forms of it next year, if possibly, that, Journey Forms have been, let's just say for about roughly, I think it's like 4 months ago? No, wait, I think I saw one miscount on it. I think it's like 3 months ago, actually. That's, exponentially, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection will able to actually have online functionalities, which it could be either be something related to transferring stuff, or perhaps even maybe, oh no! Ah, that's not good. especially noticeable. It's bad enough that not only do I lose all my rings, but also I got my obnoxious knockback, so that's to be expected by this point. But thankfully we can able to actually just fly, so at least that's that. And at least it's a little bit more easy to use to able to fly with Tails, because unlike the 8-bit version of the game, that basically it's kind of weird to able to do a button combination to make Tails fly sometimes. But thankfully in this particular remake, that actually fixes that problem, I guess. So, but yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to describe about it. And I think that pretty basically summarized the forms of this entire conversation about the forms of how Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit remake actually plays out. And like I said before, it actually runs quite well on my laptop, despite there are some bit of lag going on. But I must admit though, that I will try to fix that solution until whenever we get to tomorrow's video. Because, well, as you probably already know, that's, well, exponentially speaking, that this particular entire Let's Play of Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, we're expecting to be able to be uploaded within about a shorter amount of days, just because we actually, like I said before, we're getting very close towards the end of 2022 for sure, and as a result of that kind of stuff though, yeah, everything else will be expected being accounted for. So anyway, so I do apologize for that particular phone ringtone, but that's only mainly because I think there are some games notified me for able to actually play more stuff. Although I'm currently busy with the actual the games right now, including this as well. But as a result of that kind of stuff, though, I guess that pretty much explains about it. So, anyways, here we go with the 6th and final special stage, easily without doubt the hardest one by far. Not only just because of how the fact that they every now and then they are start able to include certain obstacles in your way, such as for instance with all that conveyor belts. Oh, how the heck? Ah, drat. Well, there goes my second failed so far when it comes to special stages alike. But exponentially, hopefully, thankfully we've actually got ourselves quite a few lives there, but nowhere near as much lives. So we're gonna have to be very careful of not to waste too many extra lives. So, oh yeah, we also need to watch out for those specific green walls, as you can see, because I believe it will tend to knock you back a little bit. So yeah, there's quite a few obstacles we need to avoid, such as, for instance, like I said before, bombs, alongside with bumpers, essentially. And heck, let's not forget ourselves with the forms of the most thinnest platforms we have to make our way to come across, and as well some green walls, like I said. And on top of that, there's going to be a lot of conveyor belts we definitely need to avoid. So, well, there goes another attempt on special stage 6, but hopefully 3rd time's the charm, and hopefully we should able to succeed. So, and of course, just like in Sonic Mania, alongside with Knuckles Chaotix, basically though is the fact that you have to watch your ring count. So yeah, it's very similar for that respect, but hopefully we were able to succeed this time around though. But and also, as far as I've noticed, is the fact that the sniper is actually getting a little bit slightly faster, but hopefully though, if we do manage to able to stumble across, you know, the lightning items here and there, then we should be able to actually just to catch up to him, so. But thankfully, there are quite a few dash panels that attempt to help you out, so. But yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything, despite that I did manage to fail quite a few times on certain special stages, which, don't get me wrong, I will say the concept of this is actually very interesting, because as a result of that kind of stuff though, is the fact that you're able to do a lot of emphasis on racing, instead of like doing a huge platforming. Although mind you will still do platforming, but in a different perspective. But apart from those side of things though, I actually really like those special stages, so. There we go, we got all 6 of those Chaos Emeralds, but if you get 6 Chaos Emeralds, it actually shows you this message here, see you at the Atomic Destroyer, while Dr. Eggman is holding the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald, which appears to be the Yellow Emerald. So, what this means is the fact that as soon as we get to that zone, something will definitely be happening. So, either way though, and also, if you do somehow manage to able to continue finding yourselves some more special stage rings. Well, thankfully though, you don't need to deal with them anymore, because as a result, we've only got 1 Chaos Emerald left, and as I said before, it's gonna be at the very end of the game, so yeah, it doesn't take that long to able to actually get to there. Well, apart from the fact that, well, not only did I mention this before, that we will come across in some new zones that we haven't exactly explored yet, and on top of that, certain acts throughout each zone is actually very, very lengthy this time around. So as a result though, I guess there's not much else I can explain about the forms of certain comparisons between, you know what I mean, the original version and the likes of how it does it on the remake. But either way though, so far I'm actually having a lot of fun here with this, so... Of course, just like the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, like I said before, they will come across into those bonus stages, as you can see. Well, mind you, in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, you will able to actually access to special stages, whilst in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, though, that basically, that's, well, I've already explained about the forms of those certain bonus stages, haven't I? So... yeah, in these bonus stages, specifically only 2 of them, are basically though is the fact that one of them will actually take you into the forms of kind of the identical bonus stage from that particular, the bonus stage from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I'm pretty sure. Except rather than just using those little weird ball physics kind of thing, so instead they now utilize the forms of those ball cannon until you're able to blast off onwards. And yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. And on top of all that stuff though is the fact that there's also the second bonus stage, which actually functions as like a Gamble Fest bonus game, where basically you have to use those, I would say a limited amount of flippers and stuff like that, because it actually shows you the actual counter of how many times you're able to actually use the flippers, and especially noticeable that if it reaches to 0, basically those flippers will be gone for good, and basically you gamble for rings, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, I guess everything else to manage to encounter for, basically. So anyway, oh yeah, something's worth mentioning. Oh, I've never seen those white springs before. So I believe those white springs are kind of similar to the regular yellow springs, where basically it just bounce you a little, whilst the red ones will bounce you a little bit higher. So yeah, it's a nice little cool touch. And also I really love this cool touch, by the way, like every time you're able to actually break certain item monitors, then the actual item monitor thing will scatter to pieces with all that glass and stuff. That's actually a cool touch. But I digress. So, hopefully we're able to get more extra lives exponentially. Now we don't need to worry about the special stages right now. So speaking of an extra life, we actually got one back after the events of the 6th and final special stage, trial and error moments. But that's okay though, because like we said this before, we don't need to worry about this kind of stuff until we make our way to the very end of this entire run-through of Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble 16-bit remake. So, as far as I can usually try to describe about something, I think that's as far as I can try to talk about for the sake of the forms of this entire game plays out. Like, you know, I'm really enjoying this so far, and I will save the actual, my final impressions with the forms of this entire game until, specifically, whenever we get to the final day of 2022, while we're trying to able to show you guys, there's some ton of extra stuff of how this game offers us to, unlike the forms of how it does it on the 8-bit version of the game. Like, basically, very similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, alongside with Sonic Mania. This particular remake does have a multiplayer, specifically the competition mode. Well, the only difference is this time around though, is the fact that while you're still able to doing racing and stuff, although there are some new battle modes they obviously include this time around, which I probably will save that conversation until whenever we get to tomorrow's video per se, because, well, I'm just trying to focus on this particular, you know, this entire stage as a result. So either way though, well, because chances are though, sometimes I'm not able to mainly concentrate around here, especially, well, obviously we don't need to worry about certain situations right now, apart from the fact that I've lost so many of my rings, but that's okay, because, well, if you do get all 6 Chaos Emeralds in hand, well, to be more specifically the collective emeralds, you won't have the ability to able to transform into Supersonic just yet, so... Because here's the thing though, because unlike the original version of the game, where you don't come across into a transformation for Supersonic, so... I guess that probably explains it how. So there we go, that basically concludes Act 2, and, well, I get the strong sense of feeling. I believe the actual background right here, which I think it's more like a train, that basically it starts to move, so you know what that means, folks, it's time for Act 3. So, yeah, I guess that pretty much summarizes it such. Alongside with this very, very cool music in the background, as you probably already know. So, either way though, much like the original version, basically we have to dodge not only certain enemy encounters, but there's also bottomless pits every once in a while. So either way though, oh no! I didn't pay attention to the actual yellow and black symbols on it. Oh jeez. So unfortunately though, this will be my first step of the playthrough, so as a result though, I didn't expect to see that coming. So, whoops. Hopefully we'll keep trying, so either way though, hopefully we're able to actually make this as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'm actually very curious to see how certain portions of this remake actually turns out. Well, I already mentioned about the forms of some lot of improvements than the likes of how it does in the original version in my opinion, such as for instance, of course, that thankfully, oh, what's this? We can now able to actually take a ride on a train? Oh, interesting. And also, this place is filled to the brim with a lot of animal capsules around here. Although similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I'm pretty sure. That basically though is the fact that in Act 1, you do come across into those signposts, or the goal signposts as far as I'm aware. And in Act 2, you're gonna have to activate the actual animal capsule until you're able to free all the critters and stuff like that. And as far as Act 3 goes, it's hard to explain really, because either way though, I'm just trying to able to see what really happens around here. Oh god, he activates the actual dynamite bomb to able to actually disconnect the actual, oh wait a minute, he's probably gonna interrupt our progressioning for able to try to shoot us. Well, I guess it's the only way to find things out, I suppose, to able to actually just try to avoid his lock-on cursor, and then basically we should be safe from here, so anyway, so let's see what's beyond in this bonus stage, and it turns out it's another pinball round, I'm presuming so anyway. So hopefully we're able to get something that's very rewarding as opposed to just got kicked out for almost like very start. But let's see what happens here. Jackpot, baby! Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wow, what a lucky, well, lottery thing right here. So I'm very impressed about that, so anyway, but that doesn't excuse the fact that, like I said before, unfortunately we can't turn into Supersonic at this rate, so, but that's okay I guess, because obviously this is the beginning portion of the game after all, so, time will tell, so either way though, we'll, continue things on here. So anyways, let's do some drop dash here and there, so just in case we'll get ourselves a bit of speed here, so, so far, I'm really loving this variation of Act 3. It's almost like a full-length level as opposed to a very short level. Because the only thing is worth noting for, on the majority of the Act 3 levels in the original version of the game, that you come across into smaller platforming segments, and then you come across into a boss fight at the end. So, yeah, at least I'm very glad that this remake, that it does have a full-fledged level. So, and of course we do need to— oh no, there goes all my rings thanks to that gosh darn chimneys. I'm not exactly sure it's a chimney or not, but either way though, we'll just have to stick around with it I guess. Alright, so we got another checkpoint here, but unfortunately though, no bonus game to be activated, so— oh, what's he doing now? Oh god, it's a firewall! We're gonna have to be able to avoid it fast. And especially noticeable because if we don't escape from that at all, and especially noticeable, I think if you dare touch the firewall, you instantly die. So either way though, you have to be quite fast, don't fall into certain pits or anything, although thankfully you don't die, although you will get crushed exponentially, so— oh man, this is quite exhilarating, especially noticeable where, you know, everything else in this particular version of this zone is actually— I'm not gonna lie, pretty fun. So anyway, let's just go ahead and see what's in here. I think I'm also able to... Nah, it's a bonus game again with all that. Gamble for rings. I was hoping for a shield or something to make the entire act like this a little bit easy to manage, but I guess there's nothing right to harm about, I suppose. But yeah, let's just get out of here. No time to waste, able to gamble for more rings and stuff like this, but oh, looks like we stumbled across a familiar boss fight ever since the original version, which it turns out whose name was Marv Polaris School, from the likes of the forms of the boss fight in Sunset Park. And I will say, he's actually pretty easy this time around. So in this case though, you can simply just jump at it a few times, and that's all there is to it, really. So everything else has been blown up to pieces. So anyway, so with that being said though, I think we should probably end things off here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble 16-bit. And that is the fact that we'll move on to the third zone in the game, known as Meta Jungular Zone. So this should be quite fun as a result. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later, fellas.